So you want to call this concentric circles, but I would ask you to talk about what you were just saying. Do you remember?
Yeah. So we have to live in relationship to each other.
Hmm.
So we were having a discussion where I'm talking about people can use you for things, and then you feel as though you're an object to be used, but it's part of this level of existence.
Mm. Mm.
You can't operate outside of that. It's like trying to operate without breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a law. It's a fundamental law of this existence.
I agree. We are social beings by nature. We can't exist without each other. You know, I've said it in so many different ways. I've said it concerning the bubbles on the ocean. I've used the grapes of wrath. You walk into this enormous bell-shaped room that's perhaps 100 yards in diameter. And at the center of this thing, 50 yards out, there's a kind of a vine that seems to run all the way to the ceiling, which is about 5 or 6 stories high. And at first, you hear a din, and then you get closer and you realize that this vine is covered with hundreds and hundreds of grapes. And they're all slashing at one another, killing each other. And again, there's a dialogue with the guide who tells them that this is your human condition. These are your humans. This is your human world. You all grow from the same vine. You're all constituted the same way. You all have the same fundamental needs. There are all these mild differences, minor differences between the people. And yet people are so alienated from one another. All they see is the separation. All they see are the differences. And in murdering others, they're murdering themselves. They're changing their morality to, there are ways to murder other people. You don't have to kill them physically. You can destroy their reputation. You can use them and throw them aside. You can, and we do this inadvertently because the world, by an existential aspect of our nature, is that we see the world in terms of instrumentality. Everything is an instrument. Everything is useful or not useful. Even the trees, if you enjoy the beauty of the trees, they're useful. If you don't care about nature, as so many people do, who just see beyond. They're always looking for their own project, their own fulfillment through some kind of idealization, some set of conditions. So they don't even care about nature. They don't care about the ocean or the beauty of the sunset. Or they're dead to all kinds of things. There are people like that. And there are many people like that who don't appreciate something, and thus it becomes a useless instrument and is therefore tossed aside. There's a term, I think we spoke of this, I read about it every once in a while, I still see it, where somebody insults another person by imposing the label tool upon that person. And I think that it's used so universally that there's no relationship between form and function, because a tool is simply a person who's used, but they're just insulting the person, and it doesn't relate to that usefulness. It just relates to the fact that that person's not liked for one reason or another. So the truth is that you can speak of it like this: I have no use for him. Well, there you go. You don't care about that person. It's a very common aspect of the human condition, and that's all based upon the fact that we're in a condition of separation from all the other bubbles on the ocean. Now, I called it concentric circles because I pointed out to some of my classes when I was teaching ethics, you live in a world of concentric circles when it comes to your relationships. Some people are much closer to the center than others. Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your wife, your children, people's children. Those are the closest. Anybody who has children would probably agree with that. Your pets. Well, I mean, I see on Facebook how so many people love their pets, thank God. I do. Crazy about them. And they live very close. Then there are other people who are farther out towards the periphery. They're useful to this extent, to that extent, this extent, to that extent. Then the ones way out on the periphery who are maybe just names, celebrities who die. I was teaching a class where one young woman said, no, everybody's either on the inside or the outside. Well, not even remotely true. I think it's just a lie, because some people are more valuable than others. And if you try to live, as you pointed out about somebody, if you try to live to give equal to everybody, you can be equally respectful, you can be compassionate and considerate, but you cannot, in terms of behavior, be for everybody the same.
Right.
And it's okay, because, I mean, what we have to recognize is that we live in this egoic condition, and the people that I have known who have pursued the transcendence of ego, the consciousness movement people, the people I've shared a great deal with in many ways, many of the same readings and value system, those people have to understand that it is so difficult to transcend ego when ego is making the effort, that it's going to be a failure, and that you come to some Zen point where you learn to let go and something good happens. But as long as you are trying to be this perfectly equitable individual, you're going to disappoint yourself, and you're going to put a tremendous amount of stress on yourself.
And disappoint other people as well.
I guess so, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, to go back to your point about treating people equally, and then one step further saying there's a separation, a clear distinction between the black and the white of being outside, inside of the circles, which is an incredibly simplistic viewpoint of how to interact with humans that I could never conceptualize. To give some layers to that spectrum, so you wouldn't treat someone that hurt you the same as you treat someone that helped you, right? Just to start. And then let's say creating some kind of gradient or midpoint, at least to begin with, you wouldn't treat someone that hurt you by accident the same way that someone hurt you maliciously. So at least you have at least those three distinct points. And then to take it one step further in interaction, you wouldn't treat someone that was trying to help you that ended up hurting you on accident the same way that you would treat someone that hurt you maliciously and obviously. And so at least you have those. And wouldn't this go on and so forth for a decent amount of a spectrum? How could you possibly, even on an interaction basis, treat people
You'd wonder
equally?
why someone would maintain that. It's merely a matter of competition. The person just wanted to be right and the other person wrong. So, I mean, and you could say so much about it. You could do philosophy and turn it into a psychological investigation.
It would seem that a person that would try to do that is treating people either all in or all out, is having a spiritual competition with the entire world.
Well, there you go. That was a characteristic of this person.
Right?
Yeah.
To say that everyone... how could you possibly... We were talking about Rwanda earlier. How could you possibly treat them the same way or deal with that in the same way? Oh, you're going to lovingly embrace somebody that's murdering...
Your family.
Yeah, sure. Try.
Yeah, you'd have to be like Prince Mishkin in The Idiot by Dostoevsky, who loved everybody. That's why they called him the idiot, but he was, either an idiot or a saint. He was intelligent, so he was articulate. And then I think Dostoevsky put his seizure into him too, his epileptic seizure. Dostoevsky used to have epilepsy, and he would see the whole universe. He'd have a cosmic experience before he'd go into a seizure, as he was going into a seizure. And then he would be, dead for days. And
I mean, that certainly makes sense to me, though. Like, that whole process of...
You'd have brain would be transformed.
Yeah, because
ordinarily, ego is always co-opting. The consciousness people will tell you that. Ego co-opts everything. I became enlightened.
Mm.
There's no I in enlightenment. You know,
Right.
there's just consciousness without the self. It's a larger sense of self. It's not a loss of self. It's not a dissociative state.
Mm.
The body still functions. The mouth still speaks. It's all perfectly well. But one realizes there's a pre-reflective realization that one is just this pure consciousness that is witnessing.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a fundamental freedom, but even then you still feel the pain in the leg.
Right.
It's not as if it's, you turn into a Beatles song, a gooey Beatles song.
Mm.
So again, concentric circles. There are people way out on the periphery. Idi Amin did not bring a tear to my eye when he died. He's a monstrous cannibal leader in Africa a long time ago. He's a killer. He was like so many killers from that area. And so, when we hear about certain people dying, and then when other people die, people who've identified with them, and Churchill died, I remember that. And he was a great hero to many, many people. He took Britain through the war when they should have given up. Everybody wanted to give up. He would let them give up, and he kept them in the war, and they won. Otherwise, they'd still have a swastika above Buckingham Palace today. So, people cried when he died, but people also cried when Stalin died. See,
well, they idealize the godlike figure, right?
Identification with the authority.
Right.
The reason, and this sounds like I'm pulling it out of thin air, but it's so poignant. The reason that the United States still has the death penalty on the books, according to the people I've researched, is because of leadership. In Europe, the leaders advocated for the abolition of the death penalty, and they got it, the entire European scene as well, unless it's treason. Treason will get you killed. But short of that, there's no death penalty in Europe. In America, we still have the death penalty, even though it's calmed down considerably. People are still being put to death. And the reason is because of leadership, which means what? People are authoritarian personalities. The sheep are authoritarian personalities. They are following the leader. That makes them authoritarian personalities. You put a sheep in charge, you're going to see a very different kind of sheep. People think that they're good and the other people are the bad. Put a person into the position of power. Power corrupts. Power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Lord Acton was absolutely right. And you are faced with situations that will corrupt you. So again, we go back to the foundation of relationship. The fundamental problem is the separation, and when a person wants to be good to everybody, he or she is just ignoring the fact of separation. There is separation, and it will manifest. It'll make you look like a character in Franny and Zooey. It'll make you crazy. Franny was like that. She was a brilliant baby of the family of a genius family, a family of geniuses, and she thought she had to be good to everybody because it was a family of brilliance and light and intellect and spirituality, and she thought she had to live up to that, and it just made her half crazy. She started to dissociate, become nuts, until her older brother, little Zooey, took her aside and he talked to her, and he explained various things to her and grounded her so that she could feel the reality again. And then she asked him at some point, "Why do you smoke those big stinky cigars all the time?" He says, they keep me from floating off into the air. He says, I have to go talk Zen to a ladies' flower club. I go from one piece of holy ground to another. He understood. He was older, he'd gone through it. A beautiful little story. And it can ring true, because sometimes all people have to do is accept themselves, and they can stop dividing from themselves. You know, what I'm really saying is some people need to be perfect. I have to be good to everybody. You've got to love everybody, one woman said to me. She was in a terrible condition. She didn't love anybody. She hated everybody. She was alienated as hell, and she made the statement, you've got to love everybody. Sad, and failing, therefore. So